This video will be going through a couple of different helpful hints, an example from worksheet number 2, and then going through a little bit of notes. All of this should just be really helpful as you guys started to look through worksheet number 2 at the beginning of our last period. So the first thing I want you guys to do is to look at what you were given on this worksheet. You were given the identity of each of these planets in order. Notice how I didn't include Pluto. I'm just saying. I also gave you the semi-major axis and then the eccentricity of the planet. You were then tasked with finding the major axis, the perihelion, and the aphelion, as well as the focal distance. Focal distance is just the distance between the two foci. That's really all that is. AU here does not mean Australia. This means astronomical units, which we have talked about before, right? So the first thing that you guys should do is look at the major axis. That should be pretty easy because if you remember, looking at our notes, the difference between the semi-major axis, so from the outer edge to the middle, and the major axis is that the semi-major axis is half of the major axis, or the major axis is double the semi-major axis. So all you really had to do for this first column is just multiply this first number by 2, right? All you need to do is double this. So for this first one, if I double it, should just be 0.7742 astronomical units, right? In case you don't believe me, I'm going to pull this up, Web 2.0 Calc. We're going to do this. All I have to do, 0.3871 times 2, and there should be my major axis. Okay, 0.7742 astronomical units. Next, the aphelion, perihelion, and focal distance. To be honest, don't really know where to start. So let's look back at our notes here. Okay. In our notes, you guys might remember. Come on, wrong way. In our notes, you guys might remember that we defined the eccentricity as equal to the distance between the foci. In other words, the focal distance. So the eccentricity is equal to the focal distance divided by the length of the major axis. So I already have the major axis, and I have the eccentricity, and I'm looking for the focal distance, so I can find the focal distance, right? If I were to put that into the form of an equation, it would just be eccentricity equals focal distance divided by major axis. We're looking for focal distance in this case, so I need to rearrange this formula. Right, eccentricity is by itself equals focal distance divided by major axis. So if I want focal distance by itself, I need to multiply both sides by major axis, and then you get major axis times eccentricity equals your focal distance. Right, so let's try that now into our calculator. We just solved for the major axis, and we were given the eccentricity, so we should be able to figure out what this focal distance is. We will talk about the other two formulas here in a second. If you have any questions, by the way, as I'm going through this, because I know that this is kind of complicated, please make sure you guys send me an email or you go to my office hours on Wednesday. So again, focal distance is equal to our eccentricity times our major axis. So, come on. Sorry about this, we're having technical difficulties. So there's my major axis times my eccentricity, 0.2056, and I should get a focal distance of 0.1592. Okay, so what it's saying here really is the distance between the two foci is 0.1592 astronomical units. Okay, so if we look at this pre-drawn picture, I'm now just going to be sharing this. So if we look at this pre-drawn picture, what I just solved is the distance between my two foci here, right? These two dots, my foci. That is our focal distance. That's really what I just solved for. Okay, I already found out my major axis, the dotted line, because I knew that the semi-major axis was, and then I just multiply the semi-major axis by 2. Okay, I hope that kind of makes sense. I'll explain how I got our perihelion and aphelion here in a second. So, for the perihelion, what I did is, I'll just start with aphelion. I already know the semi-major axis, right? So I already know a huge chunk of this right here. That's almost all of our aphelion, right? But our aphelion also includes this portion here, and I don't know what that is yet. I do know, however, double that is our focal distance, okay? So what I'm going to do here, and I will give you a formula to do this, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take half of our focal distance and then add it to our semi-major axis, okay? And that will give me the distance from this spot, which is our sun, all the way to the other side, okay? So again, one more time. I know the semi-major axis, which is all the way from this edge to the center, and then I know how far there is between the two foci. So all I need to do is take half the focal distance and then add that onto my semi-major axis, and that will give me the aphelion. Okay. What I'm going to do to find the perihelion is pretty much the opposite. I'm just going to say, okay, the semi-major axis from this outer edge to the middle minus half the focal distance. Okay. So that's really what I'm going to be doing here with these calculations. I hope you guys found that helpful. Again, though, please make sure you guys go to my office hours if that does not make sense. Let me see how I can shrink this. Small little bubble there, yeah. So now we're going to start out with, as I said, the aphelion. So I have my semi-major axis. 0.3871 plus, this is our focal distance. That's not what we want. We want half of that focal distance. We want from the center to the foci, right? Because we already have from the center to the outer edge. Now we want from the center to the foci. So plus half and that should give me my my aphelion. So it's 0.46667. That's my aphelion, and then my perihelion. If you look again at my picture, perihelion is the semi-major axis minus the center to the foci, so half of our focal distance. So I pretty much do the exact opposite of what I just did. So if I come up here, I need to subtract now my semi-major axis minus half of our focal distance. And I should get 0.3075. Now you can double check your work here, because if I add up my perihelion and aphelion, they should be my major axis, right? And it looks like they would be, or pretty close, you know, within rounding. Let's see here. So my perihelion 0.3075 plus 0.4667. And I get 0.7742, so that's my major axis. So I know I did it right because my entire length of that is equal to these parts. So I know that that was kind of complicated, but really we have two formulas that we can use here as well. So you can find your perihelion by doing the semi-major axis times 1 minus our eccentricity. So if I pull up the Web 2.0 calc again, I shouldn't have deleted this, I apologize. So if we do our semi-major axis, 0.3871, parentheses, we're looking for, we'll do perihelion first, so 1 minus our eccentricity. 1 minus our eccentricity of 0.2056. That should give us our perihelion, or 0.3075. Did that one right apparently. And the nice thing is that the other formula for aphelion is really just the opposite, the semi-major axis, times 1 plus the eccentricity. So if I come back here, the nice thing about that Web 2.0 calc, I click up here again, and it will give me my same formula. I don't have to retype it or anything. I just need to change that minus to a addition sign. So I add it, I get 0.4667, which is exactly what I got for my aphelion. Okay, so you can do it either way. You can do the way that I did, where you just kind of find your focal distance, take half of it, and then kind of logic your way through. Okay, which is which, and really truly think about it. It really helps me to draw up pictures. So please make sure you guys do that if that's something that you want. Otherwise, I will be giving you guys the formulas here if I ask you to do anything like this calculation on a test or assessment. Also, another thing, I don't want you guys to do this as a to get your answers, but you can use it to check your answers. If you want to look up the Venus's perihelion or Venus's aphelion afterwards, you can, but again, there will be assessments where you have to do some sort of calculation on this on your own, and if you've just been Googling it, you're not going to be able to do that on the assessment. So please make sure that you guys let me know if you guys have any questions. The rest of the time, you guys should just be going through and filling out this chart, as well as answering these 4 questions. The 4 questions are going to be pretty simple once you filled out the chart. Please let me know if you guys have any questions. All right, have a good day.